Hear me? Yeah, that's good. Okay, so I'm Oddvar, I'm from Matrix, and I want to start off with an apology. So last year we came here at Kamailio World, and we had a Kamailio bridge to Matrix. That was basically a sort of a bit of a work in progress hack. It didn't work that well. We kind of tried to make it work on the day, but it didn't really do the things we wanted. So we decided, okay, this year let's make a proper bridge that works really well, and it's actually had proper testing and had some love, and that was why we wanted to call this talk "Bridging Kamailio to the Matrix." Now, as it happens, we've been sort of head down working on a deadline for the last couple of months, so we haven't been able to do that. Instead, I will give you an introduction of Matrix and a status update of all the cool stuff we've been doing in the last year. So yeah, apologies for changing the talk. So what is Matrix? Essentially, Matrix is just an open standard. It's set up as a non-profit, and it's just basically a bunch of APIs explaining how to send some JSON objects over HTTP. Our goal here is kind of to defragment communication, because I'm not sure about you guys, but on my phone I have at least 10 apps that do the same thing: instant messaging, voice and video calling, and pretty much the only thing they have in common is that they don't interoperate. This is a very frustrating situation to be in. If I want to talk to some friends, I need to use one app. If I want to make a call to other friends, I need to use another app. It's extremely siloed, and we want to defragment that space and make everything interoperate. So basically, that's the sort of end goal. It's kind of unlikely that someone like Facebook is going to say, okay, we get you, we're going to change our protocol and use an open one. So instead, we're talking to developers. We're, maybe the next Facebook or the next WhatsApp, if they use Matrix, or if they have a bridge to Matrix, or at least have open APIs so we can write a bridge to them, that would be great, because that means we can interoperate, and it would just make my phone's memory a lot happier. But it's also the whole point about liberating your communication. I mean, your data is basically stored in many silos over the internet, and that data belongs to you, so you should be able to choose where you want to store it. You should be able to control it. If you want to run your own server to control it, you should be able to do that. So this is the kind of end goal. I'll come back to this diagram later, but this is kind of what we want to achieve. So I mentioned Matrix is about decentralized and defragmented communication, but essentially all we're doing is we're sending JSON objects over the internet. So that could be anything. I mean, if you wanted to use it for Internet of Data, Internet of Things data, or if you wanted to just use it in your app to send some transactions, sure, why not? You can use it to set up WebRTC, and in fact we do. And you can, anything else that uses a sort of PubSub approach to persist data. Right, so the general architecture of Matrix, it's a client-server design. So you have a bunch of servers that talk together. In fact, if I set up a server and I have clients on my server and they talk to each other, all the data stays on my server. We don't leak data unless we want to, as in if you have two servers talking together in a room. So say I'm on my server, Ole is on his server, we're talking together, we need to federate their data. And at that point, we have two servers who both have a copy of the data in that room. So the point is, it basically federates on a need-to-know basis. So the blue blobs here would be the servers. We have a reference implementation that people can use, or people can write their own server. Matrix is just a spec describing how to do that exchange. You can have many clients connected to a server. I can have many clients for one account. I have my mobile client, I have my web client, any other client you might imagine. Or you can have multiple people connecting to the same server. We do have the approach of bridges, as in what we call application service, which basically connect a Matrix home server to anything else. It could be a link to an existing system like IRC, or it could be a sort of super user bot that maybe it's reading all the data in a room and acting on the data. For example, if you have a bunch of IoT data coming into a room explaining how the temperature in your house is, you want to do some automated decisions on that, so you can have a bot that basically reads all that data and maybe controls your connected home or something like that. Or it could just be a more advanced bridge that stores your user token for a third-party app, say my Skype details, so I can make calls with my Skype account from Matrix. So Matrix is basically the specification, but we realized that in order for it to actually be used, we need to provide some libraries, some SDKs that people can use. And in fact, we have done so. We've written many things. Obviously, we have sort of a web client, and we have some tools, a JavaScript library, a React library on top of that. We have similar ones for iOS with a sort of Matrix kit that you can use for the UI objects, and again for Android. We wrote a sort of first client called Console for all these devices, and recently we've been working on another client, which I'll talk about more later, called Vector, and that's kind of what we've been heads down doing the last couple of months. We also have a reference server and a lot of bridges that people can use as they are, or use as a basis for new bridges to other things. So what is in the spec? So we've basically been taking the best things from our favorite communication tools. We use RC a lot, for example, traditionally, and also added things that aren't in those tools. So for example, with RC, it's very frustrating if you join a room and you have no idea what's going on. So we have sort of scroll back history as a first-class citizen. Also stuff like server-side search, being able to have multiple clients on the same account, and yeah, other things. So that's all in the spec, and basically that's the sort of baseline that clients should support if they want to be a Matrix client. For servers, we wrote my first server implementation in Python. It's done as well. We have a lot of people using that code in the wild. It's now starting to sort of creak at the edges, seeing some performance issues that we have tried to handle, but we're realizing now we need to sort of look larger and have a more a server that's basically built for scalability and performance as a first requirement. We're doing that by wrapping our server and making it more modular, so we can swap out components and basically rewrite it as we go along. And we're doing that in Golang. This is quite a new project we have. Interestingly, there's a lot of servers written by the community. Some in Rust, in Java, of course, and it's really cool to see people, making their own server based on the spec. Same for clients. There's a lot of clients that have been written. We wrote some of them. Other people obviously did. Of course, there's a command line one. There's a WeChat plugin. Of course, someone made an Emacs plugin. Had to happen at some point. There's some desktop apps. There are plenty of mobile apps. Some using our libraries, others just from scratch. There's Glossy Web Client, and there's actually someone wrote an RC daemon that basically exposes Matrix so you can connect to it from any RC client, which is quite cool. And there's a bunch of SDKs that you can use. Again, community has written a bunch of them in Erlang, Ruby, etc. So for the last year or so, we've been working on a Glossy client, a web client called Vector. We kind of realized that, yes, it's nice to have a client that people can use, techies can use. But if we want this ecosystem to grow, we need a client that anyone can use. And when I say anyone, I mean my mother. It needs to be really good UI, UX. It needs to be snappy. It needs to just work out of the box. And while we're hoping initially that someone from the community would set out on this mission, we kind of realized that if we really want this to work, we should probably just do it. And then we did. So we've been hard at work lately working on the mobile versions of that. And last week they were pushed to the App Store and the Google Play Store. You can try it out, and we massively appreciate any feedback you have. We're sort of launching in about 9th of June or something. So this is the best time to submit some feedback. So let's have a look at Vector. So here we are. I have my list of conversations on the left, the actual conversation in this room in the middle, and then the people in the room on the right. So you can see here there's about 600 people in this room. Of course, a lot of them will be coming in from something like IRC, so they might not be present at the moment. But I can have several different sort of data. I have my text, images. I can also have integrations like bots. So we have a GitHub bot that just basically grabs whatever changes we make. I have one-to-one conversations with myself. And I can show you a bit later. We also support WebRTC. Some of the new stuff we've done is we have a feature where you can have a permalink to any message. So basically, if I wanted to link this particular message here, I can just copy this URL and send it to someone, and they will immediately jump to that part of the scrollback. In fact, if I look at this message here, I'll scroll up to, you can see essentially it's just some JSON. It just happens to be in a message type of text, which means you can probably read it. But the point is, it could be anything. In fact, this has been automatically translated to Markdown or to HTML because it contains this character. But yeah. But the point is, Matrix itself doesn't actually care what the data is. You might see some faces down here. That's basically read markers, so you know where people are in the history. So if I go to another conversation here, you can see some people haven't read the last bits. And this, so you can basically sort of know if someone's read your message. Again, this works quite well when you're using Matrix, but of course, if you're bridging to another service, we might not get that information. What else? One of the things that was requested at conferences was that, I'd like to give this a try, but I don't really want to commit and sign up with an account and everything. Can I just have a play with it? And now, yes, you can. We've implemented guest access, so if I go to a incognito bar, I can see here I'm using Vector as a guest. I can log in or register if I want to, but I don't have to. Any room in this list that are public, I can join. So I can kind of get a preview of what's going on. So if people are talking, Randy, yes, it will actually show up here. I can't, of course, participate unless I do sign up, but at least I can see Vector in practice. There's a bunch of public rooms. Of course, if you have private conversations, they don't get added to the public list. But if you do have a public room, it gets listed on the server. So you have a bunch of official channels for different projects. The IPFS guys are bridged in. OpenWebRTC, of course, the Web Users Conference channel is also linked in. There's a bunch of things you can use. And again, you can set the sort of flags on the channel if you want to make it findable in the public list. So let's try and make a call, hoping the network is happy. So I have my phone here, which hopefully you can see on the side. Ooh, everyone knows my code, that's fine. So I want to make a call to myself because It's just how I roll. So I send a message here, and I get a, do you want to accept the call? I should probably mute this before it starts screaming. There you go. So you can see, once the call is set up, which is the bit Matrix actually does, is just peer-to-peer WebRTC. I can show everyone. Yeah. Now, the interesting bit there is if we actually look at what happened when we set up this call, place the video call. What we're doing is we're basically just taking the SDP from the WebRTC and just passing it through. Matrix is just doing the signaling. We don't really, we're completely agnostic to what data we're sending, but because WebRTC needs to be set up before you can actually make the call, it works quite well. And the recipient will then do a similar answer, and then once they've connected, it's peer-to-peer. We can also try and making a conference call. We have support for that via FreeSwitch. So I'll try here and see if there's anyone wanting to join. So let's do. So when I make a call in a room where there's more than 2 people, it will basically, instead of going peer-to-peer, it will set up a conference call. So if you join this room, it will say there is a VoIP conference going on, and you can click that bar to join it. You don't have to, but you basically manage the people who are allowed to join by the people in this room. It works really well for our sort of team meetings where we have remote workers. So we have some guys in France. They can just join, and they can join with video or with audio or whatever. If they're on roaming, they might just have an audio connection because they might not have a lot of bandwidth. I'll just sort of leave that open, and hopefully someone will join. What else? So hopefully, the point with Vector is that it's supposed to be nicer design. We learned a lot from things like Slack, that is immensely popular, and I think mainly because it has a really intuitive UI. So other things we've done, in fact, is to have bridges into things like Slack. So if I go to and say something like, hello here, I can then go to my Slack client, and I can say, okay, reply from Slack, and then you can see that coming in here. And similarly, from IRC, we have a bridge into some rooms, test to IRC, and I go to my IRC client, and back to yo, okay. So you can see how it kind of connects the systems. Of course, some systems have different capabilities. So if I, say, post an image to this room here, that works well in Matrix clients, but not so much in RC, unless we try and change it so that they can understand images. But instead, we can do some sort of translation. So we just post a link so they can at least view the image if they want to. And that's kind of how we want to bridge, everything together. Ideally natively, but it's better than nothing having these sort of baseline bridges to things. And other things we've done is basically having the ability to invite people via the email. So you can just check in an email here, and they will send you, your friend wants to talk to you, and if they sign up, they will immediately be taken into the room where they was invited to. So if we go back to my presentation here. So this is the kind of architecture of all the bridges. So you have this application service, and you have your existing system and whatever clients it might have, and it just, as a bare minimum, does the translation. I mean, we have a Slack bridge. It's actually exactly 100 lines of code, and all it does is basically take the format of Slack and transfers it to this format of Matrix and vice versa. Of course, it could be a bit more advanced than that and do something like, for richer media, or if the API allows it, it can create a user for the existing users instead of the sending as a bot, but it depends on what's available. We also have a bunch of libraries because just to support making it easy to write these bridges. So it's all written in Node, and yeah, as you see on top, you have things like the Slack bridge, the RCA bridge. The RCA bridge is a lot more clever because it supports like identifying yourself to the RC. You can register on certain stuff like Freenode. So we needed support for that, so we added that feature to it. Whereas the Slack bridge is essentially just a dumb forwarder. So yeah, here's the RC bridge. We have a bunch of rooms bridged. We actually had to get permission from Freenode because obviously you're creating a bunch of users from the same IP in order to make it so you can do one-to-one conversations. But that's all good. We have the integration to Slack, as you saw. Again, it's just a really simple set of lines, and you can set that up by using the webhooks in Slack. So we wrote a thing for a sort of parent company called OpenMarket. They do things SMS over the world. So we just wrote a really simple gateway that talks to that, and they have a pool of numbers that you can assign to people. So basically, it means that when you send an SMS, it comes from a number that you can reply to. So you can actually have a two-way conversation with completely random people, or hopefully your friends, via SMS. We have asterisk integration, so we can make calls and back and forth. It works quite well. We integrate with libpurple, which gives us some capabilities to, things like ICQ and AIM, MSN, things like that. Also some stuff that has been, I think, reverse engineered, like Skype. But yeah, it's just another sort of proof of concept that, whatever has an API, we can integrate with. If you were here last year, you would have seen this particular drone trying to fly into people. So the way we wrote that is we had the video from it streaming as WebRTC, and we also had the commands to control the drone being translated from human readable language, so something like forward, back. I can't remember if we had attack as an option, but we should have. So you control it via matrix, and it just gets sent through the bridge into the drone, and at the same time you get the streaming video, which is quite nice. The parrot has since been slightly injured, so it's not here today, but it's a cool demo, I think. And of course, we want to have bridge to Kamailio, and we really should have had it today, but yeah, it's just another example of how you can bridge existing users, like Kamailio users, into this wider ecosystem that is Matrix. And then so you end up with this sort of cluster of systems all grouped together. Ideally, some of these would be natively integrated with the matrix, but failing that, we can write all these light blue bridges so that we can actually talk from Hangouts to Skype, and ideally you shouldn't even know that a user is coming from a particular service. It should just happen transparently. So Matrix is a non-profit. We're all about just getting people using it. All our code is open source. You can literally clone it and put your name on it. We just want people to use it. So it's all about the community. We've been going for about a year and a half. Since then, we've seen about 160,000 user accounts, but of course, a lot of these will be coming in from existing systems. They might not even realize they're in the matrix. There's about 170,000 messages per day, and there's 400 servers that we've seen. So the gotcha there is, Daniel here could be running a Matrix server on his cloud server somewhere, and he could have a bunch of people connecting to that server. But if they don't talk to a room where that is federated, so that means if the matrix.org server has a user in that room, we wouldn't know about it. So you can literally take the code and just run it as an internal thing, and that's fine, that's cool. But we wouldn't have any data to know that a server exists. So we've seen at least 400 servers, but it could be more. Who knows? So this is the sort of increase of just pure messaging going through Matrix. Fairly healthy. Yes, so that's where we're at. What's left? We've been working on end-to-end encryption. It's based on Open Whisper Systems axolotl. We had to implement our own version of that called Olm. But that's really ready to go. It just needs to be hooked up into the actual clients. We want to have message threading. So imagine you have a room with 300 people. There might occasionally be multiple conversations going on. It would be nice if you could split them out and basically have 2 lines of conversation going on and just separate them so that it's obvious to people what's going on. We want to have tagging, so you can like things or react to things. We want to have groups. We want to be able to have better file management. There's some really big problems with identity and spam that we need to fix at some point. Decentralized identity is really hard. And we need help. You can help by just using our things. I mean, literally just try it out. You can try it out in guest mode. You can create a user. You can run a server. Just clone our code, set it up, connect to it. Give us feedback on the API. Give us feedback on the spec. Give us feedback on Vector, especially with mobile clients, since we're in sort of beta mode. And yeah, just use it and let us know if it makes sense or if it doesn't feel right or if it's any comment is valuable. You can follow our Twitter account, and that's it. Let's have lunch. Thank you. I should just mention that we also have a stand. So if you have any questions, you can also come over there and just we can talk.
Maybe 1-2 questions here if you are not that hungry about this messaging protocol and Matrix. Again, they have this stand out. And then my question, as usual with this new protocol, or more from the open source point of view, what would be like your take on engaging the community out there? Do you think it's something that one project can share with the other in terms of whatever resources, not necessarily technically, but maybe you feel this will help, like Open Protocols Federation, from the point of view of growing and competing with the vendors that have closed protocols? What do you think is missing, or what could be improved in this area?
I guess ideally we realize there's lots of protocols, and especially for things like IoT, we're never going to be able to focus on one protocol or agree on one. So instead, I think the way we sort of design Matrix is to basically say, okay, let's just instead of trying to replace everything with one protocol, at least we can have a single system that everything bridges into. So say if I have a bunch of IoT things, maybe temperature readers or whatever it is, and they're all using different protocols, I can then bridge them into Matrix and have a shared view of them, and then I can write the bot that basically acts on the information and does something. So instead of trying to say, okay, we need to replace them, we can just connect to them and then at least have a shared view of it. And I think that's a much more practical approach than the sort of moonshot of saying, we should all have just an open protocol that everything should use, which would be nice, but I just don't think it's possible.
And now an honest answer for the question. Is this actually what was running behind the servers in that movie?
Yes.
Okay, lunch.
Of course. Thanks.
And thank you.